Kingdom New Lands is a simple but attractive 2D empire building game. You only use 3 buttons: left, right, and down, to throw gold at things, which you'll be doing a lot of in this game. It is a game where you are the monarch, and you solve all of your problems by throwing gold at them. Where does all this gold come from, you ask? Why, it comes from your followers. This is where the empire building part comes in. You can't solve all your problems by throwing gold at them if you don't have any gold. So you need to build yourself a kingdom, to get the gold, then have the gold to throw at all the problems that come from running a kingdom. It's a simple cycle, really. However, it isn't all peaceful. You see, there are these things that are envious of all the gold and wealth that you have in your kingdom, and they want some. The game has the classic day-night cycle. Day is for having fun, night is for fearfully hiding behind your walls, while hideous demons come to steal all your stuff. However, these demons don't actually kill anyone, they just make them unemployed. It's a strange universe, this Kingdom universe, but I like it. It also features beautiful pixel art graphics, a truly fantastic ambient soundtrack, and some great retro sound design. I'm tempted to call it a casual game because of how relaxing it is to play. However, under the hood is a surprising amount of depth, and the challenges it puts you through really make you use your brain muscles. The best way I've found to describe it is a 2D, real-time, 4x light with tower defense elements. But it's so much more than that. Personally, I love this game, and fully completed it a couple of years ago. The makers recently released a free DLC that added a new island to the game, Skull Island. An island that promised higher difficulty, and upon hearing that, I jumped back in and started a brand new campaign. I'm going to first give you a basic layout of the game, and then dive in and start looking at its different mechanics and what I love about them. Before I start, I felt I should mention the art style, since it's really well done. Pixel art is something of a love it or hate it situation, though with Kingdom, they've really excelled at providing an atmosphere with an art style that is generally not known to do so. From rainfall, to thick fogs, to sunsets, which really pulls you into the experience. The designers have also managed to add incredible depth to this 2D game by separating the foreground from the background and having it move at different speeds rather than having a static backdrop. So while the game is 2D, it doesn't feel it. There is a number of different islands in the world of Kingdom New Lands. Your job is to establish your kingdom, repair your ship, which seems to crash every time you get to a new island, and sail around all the different islands, unlocking a new kingdom building tool each time. These tools can range from hermits that allow you to build bakeries, to different types of mounts and shrines you can use to improve the capabilities of your citizens. One of the greatest joys I had with this game was discovering what each of these tools did. The game offers no explanation for what they do, so everything you discover is done through trial and error. Personally, I loved this. It made you feel like you're exploring this little world. I recommend everyone who is interested in getting this game to not read anything about it and to stop this video right now and buy it. It's quite cheap and will provide a good number of hours of entertainment. For anyone who likes pixel art and charming presentation and music, it is a strong must-have. However, the game can require quite a bit of waiting around for things to happen. So for anyone who might find this annoying, approach with caution. Now while that is out the way, let's start talking about the game. As I mentioned before, I described this game as a 2D, real-time, 4x light with tower defense elements. Because of this, I'm now going to describe the mechanics of the game through the use of the 4x's. Explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. Like any good 4X game, the first aspect of the gameplay is explore. This is a personal favourite of mine, and I also loved it in this game. The island you pick is randomly generated each time, acting like a general map design, the kind you would see in Civ, with some basic settings of size and what tools you'll expect to find and in what numbers. Although there is a basic layout, there is still plenty of space for randomization. For example, you might know how many hermits will spawn, but you won't know what types and where they are. I love this, since this is what makes the explore part of the game so exciting. If you're starting a new game where you have no tools, while you might have a general idea of a strategy in your head, until you know for sure what tools you're going to have, you won't know for sure what you can do. For example, you can't plan to have a strategy based around lots of ballista towers if the ballista hermit doesn't spawn on the map. The fact that the greed waves are not all that strong during the first couple of days gives you some space to get to know all of your surroundings. Although I often got a bit too ambitious, they had some run-in with the greedlings in the middle of the woods, so it still pays to be cautious. Once you have completely explored your island, and now have an idea of where everything is, and what this island has available to you, you can start planning out your strategy. This is where the first part of the 4X puzzle ends, and we move on to the second of the 4X's, and another personal favourite: expand. Now it's time to start building up your fledgling kingdom. An important first step is to start building walls and towers, while also upgrading your central keep. This works sort of like a tech level, where each time you upgrade the central keep, you unlock new capabilities. Often, this will be types of workers. For example, unlocking farmers or the banker. I like this. It gives a good overview of how advanced your kingdom has become, and the fact that the cost of upgrading your keep rises so rapidly provides an interesting choice about whether to invest your gold into improving your tech level or expanding your kingdom outwards. Talking about expanding outwards, the real meat of the expand gameplay comes from chopping down the woods. Woods are annoying. They block the building of farms, walls, and towers, and also block the spawning of rabbits, which your archers will hunt to provide you with gold. As you chop them down, the grassland will expand, allowing huntable rabbits to spawn, the building of buildings on set points, and also allowing your mount to eat grass to regain stamina, allowing you to move through the map quicker. While there are some areas of woodland you might want to keep around, for example at a merchant or a vagrant camp, most of the time you'll be clearing the woods to expand your kingdom. If you wish, you can expand your kingdom very wide to both edges of the island, providing you with plenty of layers of walls, towers, and farmland for a truly impressive kingdom. Now it's time to start talking about the third X, exploit. Once you have your general fortifications up, it's time to start thinking about setting up some farms. These can really give a massive boost to your income, the advantage being that they can allow you to generate gold from the inside of your kingdom, since archers only hunt outside of your walls. Farms can still be established outside of your walls, though the inside farmland will be more productive, since farmers can stick around the farms during night, not needing to return to your keep to avoid the greed. I liked the farm building part of the game, as it really made me feel like I was establishing a true kingdom, building something that isn't just defences. Farms are very costly to set up, and can be a huge money sink if the greed break through to them and steal all your farm tools. Because of this, it is a big decision to establish farms, needing to be set up in the right location, but also at the right time, since you need to make sure that your defences are strong enough to keep them safe. Building farmland is not the only part of the exploit gameplay, however. There are also shrines on the map that you can find to activate to grant your followers bonuses. While these are not needed earlier on in the game, I found them to be essential when trying for longer survival times. They can make your walls stronger, archers fire more accurately, and your farm support more farmland. What is interesting is that activating them does not last forever. While some players might find this annoying, I also liked this feature. It brings the movement part of the strategy forward, as you really need to plan out how long it will take you to get to places. Throwing more gold at the shrine allows you to keep them running for longer, but you will eventually need to come back to reactivate them. Also on the map are different mounts with different abilities. What I really loved about this system is that all of the mounts provided their own pros and cons. While some of the mounts are generally stronger, there's still some personal choice involved in what mount you wanted to use. Some mounts being more useful in the early part of the game, and others being more useful later. For example, do you want to ride a horse that can get to places quicker, or a freaking bear that can attack the greed trying to destroy your kingdom? But there is even more to the exploit side of the gameplay. You can find hermits. They each provide a different super tower upgrade. As I mentioned earlier, what hermits you find on your island will have a big impact on your strategy due to how powerful these tower upgrades are. But they are useful in different areas. The ballista provides you with a truly impressive point defense, while the knight tower allows you to make your army bigger. My personal favourite was the baker, which can be used to attract migrants to your kingdom from the migrant camps around the map. Talking about your army, let's move on to the final part of the 4X puzzle, Exterminate. There are two parts to the Exterminate gameplay in Kingdom New Lands: defending your kingdom from the greed invaders, and taking your fight to the greed and destroying their portals. I thought I would break these down and look at them one at a time. Let's first look at defending your kingdom. As mentioned before, there are both towers and walls. To get maximum upgraded walls and towers requires you to invest a lot of gold. Because of this, it is not always necessary to have them upgraded to the max level early on, especially if you're focusing on an expansive approach to your kingdom. I liked this. I love how many different options the game provides you in terms of building your empire, and the different game styles you can choose to adopt each time you play. The later tools, which are unlocked as you improve your tech level, are the catapults and the knights. The catapults are very strong and able to knock out multiple greed at once. However, you can only have one on each side of your kingdom on your outermost level of walls. I found these to be essential in the late game, though having them only on your outermost level of walls makes them vulnerable. It means you often have to invest gold into rebuilding them. This gets more tricky later on, which we shall have a look at later. Knights are your professional army. When you get one, they will recruit 4 archers as their personal squad. While defending your base, these units will act like the rest of your troops and hide behind the outermost layer of your defences, shooting arrows at the enemy. However, when they sense that wall is going to fall, they pull back to form a second line defence behind the next wall. I initially thought of these guys primarily as an attack force, but I found them to be much more useful for defence than I imagined. Now let's talk about attack. The greed that attack you every night spawn from portals spread across the map. If you get annoyed at their constant attempts to topple your kingdom, you can send out your knights with their squad of archers to destroy the portals. On one side of the map, there is a big portal built into a cliffside. What separates these cliff portals from the other portals is that you cannot permanently destroy them. Attacking them disables them for 3 days, which buys you some time and breathing space. The longer into the game you get, the stronger the defense the cliff portal will be, to the point where it spawns a horde to defend itself. Because of this, if you want to assault the cliff portals late game, you need quite an army. Personally, I loved this side of the gameplay. The ability to send out an army to attack and disable the portals was what elevated this from just being a basic tower defense gameplay to something more interesting, especially when you can personally lead the charge and drop coins to aid in the attack. I have just given a basic overview of most of the game mechanics, which wasn't my initial plan when I started writing about my experiences with the game, but I just felt that I had to stress how, while each of the game mechanics is quite simple in design, they all work together to create something truly interesting. There is no doubting this is a simple game when compared to the likes of Civ or Endless Legend, but for what it is, it just works. It feels right. It's a great and relaxing little game to play, which can be challenging when it wants to. But as well as having these 4x elements, it also has some tower defense mechanics. As mentioned earlier, the game has a day-night cycle. Days for peaceful empire building, nighttime is when the greed come out to wreck your stuff. Over time, the greed assaults in your kingdom will get tougher and tougher, spawning larger hordes, as well as having stronger enemy types to really challenge your defences. Every so often, you'll have a blood moon night, which spawns a much stronger invasion force than usual. Surviving one of these assaults provides you with a single night of no attack. Assuming you survive the blood moon, this night of rest is the perfect time to rebuild your defences and do odd jobs around the kingdom. It's also an opportunity to send your army to assault the portals. I liked the tower defense side of the gameplay. While other empire building games often have a rival empire that you need to defeat, I feel that having a purely antagonistic opponent that plays a very different game to you works. Because you play against something that gets stronger and stronger, it still provides a challenge later into the game. While the primary aim in Kingdom New Lands is to build your boat and sail to the next island, as each of the islands is a randomly generated template, a fun way to play the game after you have unlocked all the tools is to instead see how long your kingdom can last on each of the islands. I created an open Excel page that I used to keep track of my longest survival times on each island, though I am surprised the game does not provide this. It seems like such a simple change. A little journal page you can enter through the menu that shows your longest survival times for each island, and also perhaps your quickest time sailing off each island. While some tower defense games have you winning after you survive a certain number of rounds, this game is all about how long you can survive, and this game aims to destroy you. The enemy waves get stronger and stronger. However, with enough resources and time, you can build a truly impressive defense, and large armies you can use to rise to the challenge. Though it is not only the greed which is out to destroy you in this game, it's also the weather. The game has a season cycle. It starts in spring and ends in winter. This affects lots of the game mechanics, primarily the ones concerning your kingdom's income. During the summer, there'll be plenty of rabbits around, and farms will be producing more gold than you know what to do with. In autumn, the farms will start to slow and less rabbits will spawn. If you are smart, you would have already given your banker some of the extra gold you've been carrying around, so he can provide you a source of income not reliant on rabbits or farmland. Then winter hits. Winter is brutal. The rabbits stop spawning and nothing grows on your farms. At this point, the banker is your only source of income. If you haven't been saving for winter, then you're in big trouble. Finding coins to spare can be tricky when there is so much to do around your kingdom. I like this system. It again provides interesting choices to the player, while also meaning that as you keep playing, the game gets much more difficult to keep up with the growing power of your kingdom. There is so much demanding the attention of your gold. Do you give it to the banker to prepare for winter, use it to expand your military, or create more farmland, or expand your walls? There are so many different choices that you're presented with, and there's only so much you can do in a day. The key message of the game is clear though. Eventually, your kingdom will fall. The greed will grind you down, and you'll lack the resources to maintain your defences. Eventually, a truly horrible blood moon will spawn, and they will brutally crush everything you have left. The big question being, how impressive can you build your kingdom, and how long can you keep it going? And thankfully, answering these questions is fun. So that is Kingdom New Lands. A great little 2D, real-time, 4X light with tower defense elements, featuring beautiful pixel art graphics and fantastic ambient music and great retro sound design. It's a fun game which seems to just work. So what's this free DLC that got me back into the game then? That would be Skull Island. The DLC provides a 6th island template that seeks to remedy one of the key complaints that experienced players had with the game, that it just isn't hard enough. While I initially struggled when I first played the game, I can now rush through the initial 5 islands without even having unlocked most of the tools. This is after putting in a good number of hours into the game. So the offer of a harder island brought me straight back, and I was very excited to see what it was going to throw at me. I wasn't disappointed. Skull Island is tough, and it beat me the first few times I tried it. Again, I'm going to be putting in another spoiler warning. One of the best parts of this game is figuring out what everything does, and Skull Island does a number of things differently to really build up the difficulty. The first major thing to point out is that this island has none of the empire building tools available. This really changes how you approach the island. Everything you want to use you have to bring with you. More importantly, this means that you can only have one mount the entire game, and you can only have one hermit. Because of this, you really need to plan ahead, and plan your strategy before you arrive on the island. I liked how it gave the island a very different feel to the others. This is where you go if you really want to challenge yourself. It's also a great place to test how strong the different playstyles are. The hermit you decide to bring with you will have a big impact on your strategy. Do you bring the ballista hermit to have a stronger defensive game? Do you bring the knight hermit to build a large army to bring the fight to the greed? Or how about the baker to have a stronger economy of many more followers? Each of these games will be very different. To make matters worse, the island also has a time limit. There is a new shrine featuring a giant hourglass that slowly ticks down towards your final defeat, meaning you have to beat the level before it runs out. It runs down very slowly, so you still have plenty of time. Like everything else in the game, you can also throw money at this to stop the hourglass and make the game go on longer. The price is high enough to be an investment, but low enough that if you really wanted to, the hourglass is more of a slight annoyance rather than a strict time limit. This is an interesting change that I feel is aimed at the highest level players, for whom the exponential strength of the enemy attacks and the coming of winter wasn't enough to beat them, and they just kept hanging on. The fact that you can literally buy more time is interesting, although I don't think it'd be that much of a problem for the majority of players, so you'd have to survive a long time before it starts to become an issue. I am very interested in seeing the best survival time people can get on this island because of this. I have left probably the biggest change of this island to now. This is that you cannot sail away. There is no boat, meaning that beating this island is very different from every island we have seen so far. Instead, both sides of the island have a cliff portal, and to beat it, you need to have both the cliff portals destroyed at the same time. Since they respawn 3 days after destroying them, it means you have to wipe out both in the same 3-day period, which can be quite a puzzle to work out until you get the hang of it. I really liked this free DLC, and feel it does its best to combat one of the most common criticisms of the game. I struggled with Skull Island, and it did challenge me. I've seen some comments from the highest level players of the game still saying that Skull Island is too easy, but for the majority of players, I feel it does a good job of offering a bit more of a challenge. Also, providing another island template for those lazy weekends when you feel like jumping back into the game and giving it a spin for a few hours. I am very impressed with how this game has managed to take some very simple game elements and turn them into such a little gem. Thankfully, the Kingdom series is not over, and in the future, Kingdom 2 Crowns would be released, which features a co-op mode. The original Kingdom, now known as Kingdom Classic, laid the base game mechanics and showed that it worked. Kingdom New Lands added the new mounts and empire building tools to massively improve the gameplay and make each game more varied. Because of this, I am very excited to see what the designers add to the established formula next. Kingdom 2 Crowns offers new tools for us to use, the new features being advertised as being an additional tech level, a new citizen role, a new win condition, as well as new visuals, soundtrack, and king skins. What interests me most is the additional tech level, new citizen role, and new win condition, and I'm racking my brains trying to think about what these could be. I might be wrong, but I'm thinking that all three are related. Perhaps a wonder victory of some kind. Either way, I am very excited to see what they come up with next. Kingdom New Lands is a game I strongly recommend to anyone who wants to experience a relaxing 2D empire building game. I feel it achieves what it sets out to achieve very well, and is a great game to jump back to and throw in a couple more hours even after you've completed it. It's fairly cheap at full price, but at sale price it's a steal. Thank you for watching, and happy empire building.